Alrighty then, so... Okay, have I now got fast travel back? Hooray! Okay. Alright, so I thought I'd test the theory out. So, turns out that it's locked because you had to leave the area. Not because... Which is so bloody weird. Anyway, whatever. It is what it is. Glad I got the damn thing fixed.
Come to me.
I mean, basically Sigurd said, look, you're all good. Well done. Alright, we shall now go to Alfred's study. Hooray, we have fast travel back! So pleased. So there's a few chests, a few resource chests you need to collect, and we're going to go and get, I hope I pronounced this correctly, Mjolnir? I know I butchered that, I'm sure. Thor's hammer, if anyone who doesn't know. So yeah, should be pretty interesting. I need to get up. I assume I'm going the right way. Because there are a few chests we need to go and empty and have a look in. We have got Alfred's key.
This is it. Alfred's study. What secrets has he kept hidden away?
Boots. Wait, there's a mission? You're kidding, right? Wait, aren't there supposed to be... Just there. There should be a third. Oh, here we are. Okay. Oswin's letter to Charlemagne. Holy David, urgent word from Flaccus, that, from your Flaccus. When we last spoke, I warned you of a rot that I feared was eating at the healthy, still young flesh of our holy church. Today I am more convinced than ever that something drastic must be done. I have largely confirmed that there exists a group of men and women within our church who belong to a parasitic order of heathens, men and women who wish for nothing less than the perversion of our God's word. As lights upon our loyal hound, they scurried about unseen, using our resources and purposes in opposition of our Saviour's plan. In the past year, I have gleaned what I could about the beliefs of our vile usurpers, who call themselves the Order of the Ancients. Here are but a few of the disturbing ideas. They believe that their mankind was created not by our Lord God, but by a lesser imperfect God, variously called Isu, Archons, or Nephilim in their various unholy texts. In this way, they follow the unholy heresies of the Gnostic sects that flourished in the years before the Nicene Creed. They refuse the message of the Christ and his redemptive act of sacrifice. Excuse me. They disbelieve in sin and salvation and seek my only knowledge and power, which they believe will free their spirits in the final days. They believe mankind is a lesser form of life, imperfect in the shadow of lesser gods, and that is mankind's sole duty to aspire to the example of these lesser gods. Their obsession with these ancient ones has led them to make a fetish of diabolical artifacts, which they believe will give them power and righteous cause over their fellow men. These devil's tools I have not seen for myself, but I have observed their effect on a few. Most blasphemous is their beliefs. Of the beliefs is perhaps this: they believe many of the lesser gods will still walk the earth or may return in one day resurrected forms. hence Eivor, Odin, Tyr, Loki, yeah, all those sorts of things. So the some they believe are continually reborn. These they call sages. Aita being the perfect one. Well, okay, so that's a different thing. That's a mental thing through the eyes of memories. This is through the eyes, the Isu reborn Aita. Cool. Say others seem to appear only and never again. Whether they believe the Lord Jesus Christ to be such a one, I have yet to determine. But the literature is full of references to such beings. All this I know to be true. In light of this gathering darkness, I urge swift and violent action, my lord. For the reach of this order is vast and the power insidious. Be thou a soldier of our Christ. Only a sustained campaign of eradication will end their advance. Heed my words with care and wisdom, noble Charlemagne, and may the Lord guard thee, exalt thee, and make thee enter the glory of his blessed and everlasting vision. Your faithful servant, Althwin of Elfwick. Anno Domini. Okay. Alfred's commentaries. I woke this morning thinking on Alcuin's final letter to Charlemagne, written in fear that the order has corrupted all but his master. Then, dead a week later, did Charlemagne know? Had the order corrupted him as well? Did he order the holy man's death? Or did the great emperor not see this letter at all? Long ago, I asked my father how this extraordinary document came into his possession. He had no answer for me. I feared the worst then, as I do now. Outwardly, Charlemagne was the pious defender of Christ's word. It seems impossible to believe he was under the sway of corrupted cult. But the order is expert at hiding its motives, obviously. It is stooped to using the Christ's word and the holy book as a front for its blasphemous goals, before an appearance of piety and all too easy to manufacture. Hoist the Bible aloft on the steps of a church and claim divine inspiration, and must be vigilant against such villains. The Order of Ancients argues for a hierarchy that flies in the face of God's purpose. They view men and women as debased and corrupt, born in evil intent. Yet they worship men they believe were makers, akin to a hammer loving the nail. They cannot see outside their own hermetic system. They are wrong to believe that there must be order in the world for peace to flourish. But they are wrong about the source of this order. Man was made in the image of God. God is the source of the universe's order. Therefore, man need appeal to only God for guidance. In a strange irony, I am grateful for the Danes and their invasion of Northumbria. My title should have gone to Ayla. Being dead, it fell to my brother and then to me. God's unlikely gift. I will use it to destroy what I loathed so deeply about this sickening order, and start afresh. Goodwin is with me. As our men on the continent, I will soon find others. I thought Goodwin was part of the Order of the Templars, and he's already recruited a few on the continent, perhaps in Paris, where we probably go on against the French king, which would make a lot of sense, probably being the start of the French Templar. Okay, yeah, gotcha. The Order often blesses their pagan creators, what they call in Father of Understanding, the Mother of Wisdom, the Sacred Voice. These are vile blasphemies. There is only the one Father of Understanding. He is the Lord above, our Order incarnate. Therefore, may the Father of Understanding be this and naught else. May the Father of Understanding guide us. Okay, so that's where it comes from. The invisible hand that plucks the harmony from the strings of the universe, nothing more. Let all remaining pagan blasphemies wither into dust. Henceforth, I aim to improve our lot by harmonizing the average man with the order of the universe, to walk down a quiet road, to lead him to safe and sober thoughts, to quiet his mind and cool his impassioned heart. Be the God-fearing or godless, this new order will encompass all and seek to improve man by aligning the needs with the ebb and flow of nature itself. This is my hope. This is my vow. Amen. Yeah, well, the order kind of went completely tipsy there. Just a tad, greatly.
Rantings and ravings, not unlike full-case delusions. Is there more to all this than I understand?
Your spies in Mercia report on a curious development. A faction Norse recently joined the brothers Eivor and Uber in a decisive assault on Tamworth, deposing the opposing king Burgred and installing a foolish king's thane called Ceolwulf in his stead. In following these Norse back to their settlement, your men discovered the presence of a hidden one among the pagans who calls himself Hytham. He seems in rather good graces with the two chieftains of this clan, Sigurd Stubberson, oh, I'm gonna butcher that, and Eivor Varensdottir, I probably butchered that, sorry. It's the first time I've ever seen that one actually written there. Abel's last name, I mean. As yet, his motives remain unclear, but it may be we can put into use of our own. Our poor fellow soldier of Christ has already sent word of the order's activities to the luminaries of England's major cities. It may be a well-timed letter to Hytham, and his companions will speed along our plans considerably. Your faithful servant, Reeve Goodwin. Yeah. He was a Templar. Reeve Goodwin was a Templar. Plain and simple. Huh. Right, let's head over to Norway. I'm having a chance to talk about some of the stuff in this game as well, so... Because we're going to head over, get the boat, and... Oh, of course we're going to go over here. In fact, I might as well just start from this point on moving. So we are going to here. Which means we need to go here. So, for the game itself, as far as a Viking game goes, it was actually quite good. Honestly, it was, I've never played, like, I mean, you know, for each one set in Egypt, one set in, Greece, one set in, for a game about, Vikings, Norse, and their conquests and everything else, it actually is, a good game, a lot to explore. The missions itself were, they were quite varied. I mean, yeah, okay, there were bugs. I blame that on the fact that this has been true. A lot of people have said this, that the game was rushed. The game was actually, for those who don't realize, this game was rushed out. It was rushed to meet the deadline of the release of the Xbox Series X. That's true. Now, and a lot of, despite what some corporate people might tell you, a lot of people can testify to that. So, a lot of people, and I would be included in this one to an extent, is that this game should have had at least another 3 months. AC fans, I would never have cared if they gave, especially to clean out and weed out bugs, to stop game-breaking glitches, all that sort of stuff. It would have been easier if they had given it. I mean, we all understand that thing that happened in 2020, it did slow everything down to a halt. Yes, we all understand that. But if not, that reinforced the nature and the feeling that this game should have taken an extra 6 months. Like it should have. I'm gonna switch to everything, because that's the only way we can get this. Close gauntlets. Close breaches. There we go. Show the gear for this one, but just because the only way we can get it. But no Assassin's Creed fan would have cared if they had said, if Ubisoft had announced, because of what happened in 2020, people have to work from home, we're going to wait 6 months, we're going to delay the game by 4 to 6 months to patch out the game, to make it more playable, put in performance and I forgot what the other one was. There was performance, whatever it was, which or visual, whichever the other visual was. I've forgotten already. But performance was to basically based on 60 FPS. The other one was for 4K, which is 4K 30 or 1080, hopefully around capping at 60 FPS, so 40 to 60. So that performance should have been from the start. It should have been. There, a lot of people, and I agree with this, there was no excuse in this game for this game not to have, you know...
Drop the sail!
I mean, look, because there was always two versions of this game, because that's around the time that the PS5 released, there had to make two versions, one for PS4, one for PS5. So, in that regard, no one blames it. You know, for the fact that, you know, it be 1080. But the standard should never be... well, probably more, you know, even for the more for PS4 Pro, per like a standard being, you know, 1080 60 FPS or 4K 30 FPS, right? But the moment you're on PS5, it's 60 FPS period. Doesn't matter whether you're 1080 or 4K. It doesn't matter. That's the standard the game should be held to, and it wasn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of people are so used to the whole 1080, you know, so used to the whole 30 FPS that, you know, until you see a lot of games at 60, you probably wouldn't notice the difference straight up. But it's one of those things that, you know, the higher FPS, as long as a game can run it smoothly, will always help a game run smoother, at least most of the time. And that's where it comes down to it. And that's where, you know, a lot of the text, and even I saw, you know, in the beginning when we did the whole, you know, had the whole 30 FPS thing, you know, you could tell. And then when it switched to performance mode, I did notice it was obviously smoother. I mean, okay, there were glitches. I bet it would have been glitchier if I had set it on, you know, set it for 4K for 30 FPS. And here we go, Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. I'm not sure if it could have come here later on in the game. I truly have no idea, to be perfectly fair to you. But, yeah, this is what we came here for. So yeah. Oh, God, let me actually get that bit more in view. Yep. Actually, no, let me do that better. Let me get that in better view for you. I think that's fairer, I think. Oh, damn you. No. Come on, get it. There we go. But yeah, so, this game should have been, you know, I mean, on the PS4, like, for the originals and everything, like, I understand 4K not being available in that sense. I do. You know? Let's pull this out as we are wearing Thor's armor. Thor's armor is, you have to have all pieces, the full set of Thor's armor to pull out Mjolnir. You have to. It's a requirement. Just so that you lot are aware. Oh. Mjolnir. Every hit has a chance to stun damage to all enemies around. Not so powerful, and attack binder could probably upgrade it anyway. In fact, let's just do that. What the hell? Thor's hammer. Stun is super high. Attack probably gonna be a little bit higher, so could speed, but I get it for what it's worth. But take this off. So, but in all honesty, right, is that with this game, there was a lot of stuff that is inexcusable. When it comes to Assassin's Creed, if you take out the Isu side of things, this game was very much like Odyssey, in the sense that, you know, because Basim, I don't count Basim as an assassin. Even if he was, it was manipulation by Loki, because that's just how it was. Because that was with Alethea and Loki and all that. Even that's a whole. I don't know why they tied that together, but you know, this was not an Assassin's Creed game because it's one of those things where the emphasis is, I mean, in other games where it's been like AC3 even, where Connor's trained, you know, or an even better example is Black Flag, is a lot of people draw to it, is that this game doesn't actually, you know, the exception of Black Flag is, yes, okay, you don't start with an assassin, you start with a pirate, but at least you help the assassins, but at least you come to realize the ideals, and even though you could become a full-time pirate, you choose to set yourself aside and go with the creed and the brotherhood and everything, and this game is fully like towards the Viking of, you know, the traditions, the culture, which, don't get me wrong, are really cool, but this game is, or should be, and should have been everyone was expecting, is in the main game. You should have become an assassin, and the fact that Eivor becomes the leader of the Raven clan, I might depend on what ending you get, obviously, but even so, you know, on that basis, you can't become a hidden one. You can't become an assassin if you're a leader of a clan. It doesn't work that way. And why would Eivor abandon that when she's a leader? That doesn't make any sense. You know, oh, you're going to be a leader, but you just abandon them. Like, I'm sorry, but that it goes against Viking and Norse culture and religion, which would go against the beliefs. And that, to me, you know, I mean, I understand people diverge for reasons and leave for reasons, but when you've built a game around a character trying to help with the assault on England, the takeover in England, the conquest, build up with your allies, doing things in a Viking way, and you're assisting the hidden ones, aka the Templars, for taking out their arch enemy, without actually pledging to a creed, you're just agreeing to do it because the target's in your way, and disposing of them helps you and your allies. That's all. There's no sense of, apart from the leap of faith, which is just made to help her recognize the spirit, there's no Assassin's Creed in it. The belief of the creed, I mean, yeah, we got the text, but they'll hide them, as he requested. There wasn't that sense of, oh yes, we're going to complete this game for, you know, it's not, you don't get the sense in the game, you know, even after Basim trains you to that or shows you some tricks, he doesn't go the whole 9 yards because he's got Hytham, and Hytham is delegated to by Basim, I assume, to be part of the bureau. Basim's, even if it was an assassin, it was just a lie. As it basically said, it was a whole plan they had with his wife Alethea. Like, as Loki, as an Isu, like that's just. It doesn't mean, it means he's not an assassin, or he lied. You know, the evidence is there to show that it was Loki, not Basim, or at least heavily manipulated Basim. That's not Assassin's Creed. I mean, Origins was Origins because it basically explained the beginning of the hidden ones. Like, we understand that, truly we do. You know, but with Odyssey, it was a shit show. It was a colossal butcher shit show on the series. Don't get me wrong. There were aspects of that game specifically from a Mystios for a Greek open world RPG. Not that it was a great RPG by any means, but for the sense of it being a game where you got to fight mythical beasts or confront them, you know, just the main game itself, we got to take on a cult which had nothing to do with the Order of the Ancients, just a cult that wanted to have more control over Greece politically and all this sort of stuff, which has nothing to do with the Assassins. It's a Mystios. We got, and okay, we had an Isu weapon, sure, but so what? That doesn't make any difference. It's the fact that it's not Assassin's Creed. It's just like, oh yeah, it's a Greek open world RPG game that we play as a Mystios. We've got an Isu weapon. Fine, cool. We go to Atlantis. Okay, sure. It's basically like the whole game was tailored. These two games, in terms of the modern day, are the sequels. The whole point of this game, in that sense, it looks like it was whole worked around, was that it's an open world RPG Viking / Norse game with modern days, where Odyssey is where Valhalla is the sequel to Odyssey in that direct aspect because of Alethea with the stuff of Hermistres Megitus, and like I get the whole tying it together, but don't butcher the main game. If you're gonna do that, have a Viking game where a Viking could actually become a hidden one or an assassin. You know, or if nothing else, make it so that you know the players in the game and the assassins actually do teach her gradually. At the end, she doesn't become, or she's just a warrior, and Sigurd, you know, doesn't go the whole 9 yards. He's still the leader and everything with Ranvi, and you know, and Eivor decides to leave because she wants to help the assassins, because she's found the target, she's learned what they want to do, she believes in it, you know. In that sense, you know, where Connor learns about the whole aspect thing of what's required, how Ezio learns about it, learns and believes in it, you know. You know, Edward takes his time, but he comes around to it. If they'd done Eivor in the case like Edward Kenway, that would have been fine, because at least at the end of the game, you're inducted. And sure, because at the end of the day, because then the DLCs, you are playing as a Viking assassin. That's awesome. You're going to Ireland to take on the wrath of the Druids of Ireland, of ancient Ireland. So then you're going to the siege of Paris, probably to thwart the Templar Order, you know, with the King of Paris, or the French King. Like, that actually makes legitimate sense. But making the main game so that Eivor becomes an assassin. Don't just butcher it so that it's just, oh, we're going to ignore the pretense of assassins. You know, we'll give you the Order of the Ancients, but so what? Like, honestly, if you were taking out the Order of the Ancients, there would have been no difference, because I know it sounds a bit strange, but think of it this way. So let's say each of the kings, let's just say each of the, there was a power struggle or there was corruption in each of the shires, right, of England. That's a power struggle, and we're there to conquer and help make friends. So if these zealots would just say holy warriors that served God for King Alfred, for example, if you remove the term and the whole hierarchy of Order of the Ancients, the whole Templar thing, and just made these were people who were making corruption, they weren't part of some cult or belief, but they were just people within each shire that were trying to corrupt and trying to seize power and try and be just greedy for themselves, then believe it or not, you don't need it. You didn't actually, it's like you didn't actually need to take out Templars. There was no need. I mean, I love the fact at the end of how excuse me, Alfred actually explains the whole thing to us of the creed, the creed of the Order, his intentions. Like, that I really do enjoy. I love that because we got to find that out. We got to find out the whole thing with Goodwin, the whole Alfred's belief and all that. Like, I do appreciate that, but quite honestly, we could have found that out simply as a Viking that, you know, well, learning to become an assassin, for example. You know, he's unaware that Eivor became an assassin in that alternate way of thinking that, excuse me, and we learn about it and we inform Hytham and Basim that, oh no, Alfred intends to recreate this new order, and then we get assigned to assassinate him to stop the order from ever being created, or he gets away and we have to take out Goodwin or something like that. You could have done this completely differently, but all this game showed is it was certain aspects of this game were just there for the sake of it. You didn't need the Order of the Ancients. They could have just been corrupt people. And the whole thing with Alfred could have just been there just as a cameo thing, with Goodwin being the one we have to fight while he escapes. I understand that. That would have made sense. It's like they just forced the Order of the Ancients things. Like, here's the Templars. But there wasn't a need for it. It's like they gave it to us because it's an Assassin's Creed game. Which is ridiculous. I find that absolutely astounding. The modern world. I think it's a real shame Layla's gone, or at least in a sense of gone, like she's no longer part of it in that sense, like we can't play as her. I am truly astounded that we are going to probably play either as William Miles, I would imagine being him the mentor, or playing as Loki. Since when the hell have we played as I mean, I understand each of the people we've played as has unique strands of DNA, well, with the exception of Black Flag and Rogue. But in the other ones with being the Animus, we've actually had points where this game, you know, where they've had a higher concentration, which is going to be like 10%. Loki's an actual Isu. Massive. He's an Isu. Very high concentration. Like, it doesn't make any sense why he would be there. And he's got his own motives. I mean, to be fair, I could almost forgive what happened, right? If, you know, the whole thing about Valhalla, the whole thing how we revisited, you know, in that sort of memories being as Odin, like, I could forgive that. Because that's just Norse mythology. I could forgive that. Truly, I could. But the moment that they tied in, you know, it's the moment Basim as Loki goes up to Eivor's grave and says, "I'm going to reunite my family." It bullshits the game because it bullshits the lore because it's basically saying it's forcing the assumption that we just met the Isu gods. My question then is, okay, fine. So that means that the Egyptian gods, the Greek, the Persian, to say but a few, and the Roman. Sorry, I knew I forgot one, but if you get my point, to name but a few of some of the major gods in history. So they've never been used, and even when we were in Egypt, I think maybe all but one, none of the major gods, no Ra, no Horus, no nothing, they'll never mention that context as being Isu. When if you're in that game, you should, like, maybe if they were the ones to tell you about it, you know, or they give hints to the fact that they are those gods as Isu, sure, you know, but Juno, Jupiter are certainly not Roman gods. They are Isu with Roman god names. They're not bloody Roman gods. It's bullshit. And even in Greece, you know, okay, let's just throw out, I mean, if we're talking about just memories in terms of being just, for the aspect of being cool with Atlantis, you know, throwing around the fact that, you know, Hades, Poseidon, I think that was a bit of butchery just for the content to some extent. I mean, it was cool, but not really tying in very well with the lore. But even with Sphinx, Cyclops, Minotaur, Medusa, 4 major figures in terms of gods and titans within the Greek universe, mythical universe, among others, right? They were not Isu, they were pieces of Eden that influenced people and transformed them. So what this game is bullshitting us and saying is that the that the Norse gods were Isu that actually are to be named these gods, and they are more important, and that no other gods exist as Isu. That, and if we cast aside the whole events of the DLC in terms of, you know, Poseidon and all that sort of stuff for what they were, just if we cast that as just a sake of a simulation, which is in a sense what it was, if you cast that for a simulation because there was Alethea, so she's manipulating us through a simulation, if we put that down as simulation, which is manipulation by Alethea to get us to take the staff of Hermes Trismegistus, being the wife or lover of Loki, then that would make sense. But that's then pronouncing that, basically making a brass assumption that the Norse gods are more important and that they're the only ones that Isu. So what? The Greek gods aren't Isu. So hang on a minute. But That's where the conflict of it comes in, because Jupiter and Juno, I'm pretty damn sure Juno is a god. And they've got a temple of Juno, certainly a temple of Jupiter, Mars even. Where the hell are these names? They don't make any mention in any AC lore, AC game about them being East, or in terms of actual related, like actual gods, right? You know, I mean, to the extent that if they would just upload, like if they were Isu, to the extent that they were uploading their memories to Yggdrasil so they can be uploaded to a simulation so their memories aren't lost and they go and die for their honor. Like, as Isu, like I get for archive's sake, sure. I can buy that. I can buy the fact, like, I'm pretty sure it was Minerva with Aita. I hope I'm correct. I always get those things mixed up, to be perfectly honest. I know I shouldn't, but I'll just say Minerva for the sake of it. I'm pretty sure it's right. But anyway, with Aita being the sage, so, which was Brendan, which is awesome. We found that out. But with Juno and all that, so you point to the fact that if Alethea, so Alethea and Alethea and Loki didn't have they had this grand master plan, right? to send their lives, to suspend themselves and pass their life on in some way through the calculations of the reader, and all this by reading history and time and all that, which Isu had done, which was explained in Origins and in the temples in Origins. So that would in itself, if that had just been that, like, if they had not done the whole extension where, if it was just for the sake of, that Loki just wants to be greedy with Alethea and wants to get back at Juno, Jupiter, Minerva, and whatever else, and have their own master plan to take revenge on the human race, which are their slaves at that time. Just that's AC lore for anyone, for any YouTube gets it. That's just AC lore for you. Bit of a modified one, but anyway, like, that would have made sense in the context of the game, right? Like, it would make sense because it's then them Isu have transferred their minds and their lives to the modern day, who are now going to take over things, manipulating the temples that remain. That would make that I can buy that. I can. The moment that Loki says, I'm going to revive my children, Jormungandr, Fenrir, and I'm pretty sure there's one other, I can never remember their name. I'm sure there's 3 kids. I'm getting this from God of War, by the God of War. But in that sense, they're not. The moment he puts that the Norse mythology in, he bullshits the entire lore, because that's basically saying that they are gods. I know it probably doesn't seem like it, but the implication is that we have not heard anything about, like, it's misrepresentation in my opinion, because we've heard from Juno, Jupiter, right? And they are not actual Roman gods. They're never depicted in any way, shape, or form. And there's no, in any sort of Roman thing I've seen in any of the Roman games, there's never been any inclination, never a reference, or even Sean or Rebecca, to my understanding, that they are referenced as being the origins of the Greek gods. The Roman gods. So how the hell are we being implicated with Norse mythology being true, but Roman being not? And what about Egyptian? What about the Greek? Because that was a simulation. So what the hell happened there? It's like they're butchering it. It's like, for the sake of modern day, we're going to have a new person, we're going to change this, that, and the other. It's awful. It's so awful. Although, and I wanted, that's that rant finish for that. Prize, it was cool seeing Rebecca and Sean again. It really was great to see Layla again. Great. I was actually great to see the staff of Hermes Trismegistus. That was pretty cool. It was cool to see Hytham have the Assassin Bureau build up our settlement. It was really cool playing as a Viking. I was actually looking forward to it when I heard about this game, to be honest. I mean, no, I'm really fortunate. I think I have hardly had any game-breaking glitches. Other things I've just been able to solve by saving, exiting, and reloading. I'm really happy about that. Although, to be fair, there's been like 4 patches go through since I've started. I actually waited because the problems I've been told before in demos about this game, so, you know, I wasted intentionally for a reason, and I think it's actually done me a lot of good. A lot of people have had other problems. I'm glad I've been able to fix them in some ways. I'm glad that Ubisoft actually got around to fixing some of them with the opals, all those sorts of things like that. I'm glad. I mean, it's not perfect, but compared to what how bad I've heard it has been for people, I feel quite lucky in that regard with the experience I've had. Um, in that particular regard, excuse me. I still honestly believe that Horderfilk for the end of the modern day should have been 340 or 300, whichever way. Anywhere, anything from 300 to 340, and that Hampshire or Hamptonshire should have been, um, 280 to 300. It should be swapped around because we should always be finishing the story, at least in the last few. Like, unless there's the obvious thing, like go back for a cutscene of, oh, you're going to now be pronounced an assassin, or do this, or do that. But for the sake of the actual game and finishing the whole storyline, you should always be finishing that before going to Monday, because the Monday has drastic effects on the game timeline and the lore. So you always finish what's in the animus, and if you go back afterwards, it's just to do anything you haven't finished, like any side quests or any collectibles or whatever. That's what you do that for. You don't do the opposite way around, which is colossal bullshit. I know I'm referring to that, but I'm just saying, like, or if they don't reverse it, at least give us the option of doing one or the other. So we have the choice of either doing a low-level region, which you would found out if you hadn't collected all the animus normally, you wouldn't have realized. You go to Horderfilk and you found the ending on Monday. If you'd had the option to go to Hampshire, you'd had the option to do the Hampshire arc, and finish that whole conquest, and then you have the option to finish the game. At least give us the option, or switch the regions around in terms of power level. Don't bullshit us, honestly. I know that character customization is coming around. As far as I'm aware, it's coming around far too late. Most people have finished this game already. When I say most, I mean a lot of people who have got this at launch. Whether it be for PS5, PC, PS4, Xbox, or whatever. They've all, like, a lot of people who've got it have actually finished it, or at least in the later stages of the game. So it's almost like to the point of, what's the point in bringing character customization so late on? It's like, great, have a DLCs. What about the main bloody game? It was fairly early on for Odyssey, of what I recall, which was great because you can customize stuff. And yeah, I kind of rearranged a few things in it to account for that, but I still had an assortment of weapons, which is really cool. I do love how we had unique weapons, not the half. I mean, all the stuff in Odyssey there was just for the sake of wealth, just to gain more money, more coin. I love how the weapons were unique. We could upgrade them, had to explore, get tungsten, had to get all these types of ingots. Loved going to Finland. Was really cool. Love how we got to see the Isu entrance door for the temple in AC3. That was awesome. That was I felt a bit giddy at that, to be honest with you. You probably heard if you watched that video and saw it. That was awesome. I really enjoyed that. So got to hear it. I got to hear Eivor decided no. She left it with that village and all that sort of stuff. So might be in the Kinatawari. That's just the names coming to my mind. I don't know if that's actually true, but it was one of those things that this game, I think, it looked really good. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there are some parts which are, I would say, in terms of the lighting, maybe using HDR, would easily be on comparable to Ghost of Tsushima, or Ghost of Tsushima, however you want to pronounce it. I think it would have been on par. I think some parts were, I mean, even in Ghost of Tsushima, some parts were repetitive in terms of the surroundings. But it still looked really beautiful, and this game in the right light and the right setting looked quite beautiful as well. Like, there's no doubting that, I mean, sure, it wasn't, I mean, I wasn't playing on 4K. I was playing on 1080, but it still looked fantastic. I mean, would have looked even better on 4K. So, it was just that sort of way where it was one of those things. I mean, the game it looks, I mean, okay, there are glitches, which are bad. At least they fix probably about 30% of them, or 40%. They fix a lot of the gaming mission glitches, which is good. But there was still, it left a lot to be desired. At least the story in itself in the Conquest, I mean, some might say it was a bit repetitive. I think each of the regions had, each of the characters was unique enough that it actually separated the regions. And some characters intertwined, which is fine, because that's what happens on Conquest. You get your allies, you know. I like the RPG options. They were different, but I think they still, to my knowledge and in my opinion, they still fit to a good enough degree. They still fitted within Eivor's set character, base character, which is good. Honestly, just forgot that. Honestly, um, but you know, we had choice of hoods. We could customize that, upgrade that. You know, the characters were actually really cool as well. You know, it was one of those games where the mission. I mean, some missions. I mean, some Raiders missions are repetitive, but you do it just for the opal. Let's face it. But the missions in itself, where you got to meet people, you know, I mean, the NPCs at times in the open world were so cloned, but if you look past that, it's still pretty good in that sense. I think the spears, in terms of its blocking ability and its, you know, reach, were a bit OP in terms of its, you know, the blocking on spears should have been improved in my opinion. I struggled with spears, against spears, in the game for me, but that was just me. I'm sure a lot of people didn't and struggled with other stuff, but I'm glad we got to have the dual wield. I think any ability could have come a bit sooner in my opinion. I did actually like this tree, although I must confess that I think for certain aspects of this game, like if its Raven is more for, say, range, they specify that for range because, you know, whether that be for range combat, whether it be for ability damage, all that sort of thing, you know, and, you know, for stealth, critical hits, all that sort of thing, you know, they assign each of those per itself. You know, the bear was all out fight, so that's weapon enhancements, you know, shield, light damage, heavy damage, all that sort of thing, right? That should have all been part of that. It shouldn't just be a whole mix of stuff. Because if you're going to assign something, which is the original intention, I believe is, I would assume it's being Raven is for range damage and being, you know, trying to pluck from the range and cast from afar. Wolf is sneaky, you know, from the shadows. Bear is out blunt outright. The points in that sense of how what traits and pluses you could select should have been specific to that area, not just jumbled up for the sake of it. I think some of the abilities are actually really good. I actually really enjoyed the point system in this game. You know, it might have been a bit OP at times, don't get me wrong, but I think in the end it was actually really good. It's a welcome change to the whole XP farming. I mean, you do get a lot of XP, so you can level up quickly, but to be fair, so, like, if you just go through the story, you're not going to level up as quickly. If you go and explore the world before you do things, you'll level up really quickly. And I just like exploring and doing side missions as well, which is intended to level you up. And perhaps it was a bit OP, but you can do it the way you want, which is, I think, the way the game was intended, which I do like. You know, you're left to play how you want to play, you know, which I think is always actually a really good sign, in my opinion. So, Eivor was a fun character. I'm glad we could choose as male or female. Apparently the default setting, which we could switch to certain aspects depending on which. I liked her story. I did. I think it was good. We got to learn about her background a bit, you know. Got to meet Odin a few times. That was interesting. God, he's an arsehole. Selfish arsehole, seriously. But it fits with Odin's character. But, you know, the characters in this game in terms of, you know, how the people we met in the settlement, you know, whether it's for Gunnar to Ranvi to Yulani, to all these people, to Hytham, to Bastim in early game, to all these people, to Steelborn, that's I always forget these people's names, but they were unique and they gave off that presence, you know. Tove, all these people, you know, they were quite unique. I mean, some people are dressed similar, but I think their personalities are quite unique in that sense, which is always really good, honestly. The side missions, I think the Karens we could have used less Karens in my opinion. You know, I enjoyed the other. I mean, some missions are repetitive, but that's just because they're side missions. So it would have been nice with a bit more variety, but it is the way it is, and I get that. But it's nice to have side. A lot of the side missions were varied. Um, just in that sense, you got some nice cameos in their own way for other programs, movies, or lore for other games or whatever, which is really cool. You know, I thought that was fantastic. The weather changing, you know, it the animals with their wanting to hunt you all the time if you got near, piss them off. Like I get that, and it was kind of cool. Bit of a pest at the same time, but still really cool. Radar was an unexpected thing, which was kind of nice, a nice throwback from Origins. I wish he'd been older, but I guess for the context of it, they just did it the way they did, which, hey, it is what it is, you know. So, but I'm really glad we got Thor's hammer at the end. I wish we could have got that for a little bit sooner, but I get that. I still think that we should have been able to take care of Alfred and all that before the end of the game, before the Monday. But I must admit, for the one it is for the simulation for the Tectonic Plates, the Isu site itself, for digital Yggdrasil for the whole geothermal thing, that was actually really cool. I did really like the look of that facility. It looked pretty damn awesome, you know, hidden away, middle of nowhere. You know, I did like that, you know, I did, honestly. Probably not the way it came around with Sigurd as much, just because of how the Monday, how the laws stretched through it, but you know, that's just the way they made the game, you know. Very disappointing, sucked the life out of it a little bit to me at that point, but it regained a bit of happiness for me in the end, which is good. Always finish the game on a happy note. I'm pretty sure we got the good ending, which is absolutely fantastic. But basically, with Ranvi now, I was pretty afraid when we actually slept with her at that point during the game. I was thinking, it got to I think, oh god, it's going to be this old shit show. But no, we played the other. I was careful because I didn't want to get too many romance options. I like the fact they gave us the options, but I just stayed clear because we had Petra, which if we'd broken up with Ranvi, I would have hooked up with Petra anyway. So the option's still there probably, so I don't know. But I'm happy to be with Ranvi. I mean, she's respected as head of as one of the um, co-heads of the clan or vice heads of the clan, which is fine. I think that's the way it should be with reconnaissance and all that. But you know, there were things in this game. I think despite it all, in terms of you know the glitches in some cutscenes, at least they were smooth enough. The combat, you know, it's better than it was in Odyssey. I did enjoy it. The parrying, you know, I mean, some instances it could have been very much improved, but I think for what they gave us, it was good. In terms of, like, for the lack of Assassin's Creed base, I'm very disappointed. For the Monday, I'm really sad to see Layla go, but I suppose on the sake of the way they did it, it is what it is. It's sad to see her go, but it was probably just for the sake of the game. The how we, yeah, I was gonna say something, but with the as a Viking game, with the lore, the culture, the tradition, the accents, you know, the different shies, we got the experience for most of the part, the different accents with them. I think that's pretty cool. Got to visit them all. Got to see. I'm assuming these are truly the old representations of it, so that's really cool. So fast Charlie on, but as a Viking game, I did enjoy it. Honestly, despite all the things about it, I did actually enjoy it. I'm lucky, like I said earlier, I'm lucky I didn't get as many bugs in terms of for the game. I think they were patched before I got up to the point, which is why I waited to play this game. So, which I'm glad I did, because otherwise I might not be able to finish it yet. So, that would have been a real pain in the ass. But it's one of those things where I mean, for the game I was hoping for, and sort of hoping sort of a Black Flag type of story. It's probably gonna come in the DLC if it does. I was really, really disheartened. It broke my heart that did kind of happen. I was expecting something like that. For specific a Viking game, open world RPG, I did enjoy it. It looked beautiful. It was a good game, a good story. a bit slow at times, but sometimes you just have to do a slow story in the end. At least we had the Order of the Ancients for what it's worth. Probably didn't need to say Requiescat to Pace as often, but as an Assassin's fan, that's what I do. I like saying that. But would I recommend this game? I'd say maybe wait a couple of months for another patch to come through. If you don't mind a couple of patches, fine. Okay, I understand. You know, if you don't want to deal with the bugs, I get it. But if you want to play a good, I mean, okay, it's not, you know, it's no Red Dead Redemption level story or, you know, Horizon Zero Dawn level RPG style things, but it's still a good solid game for what it is, despite the bugs. Good story, good characters. It looks really beautiful. Good weaponry. You know, there's a lot of exploring too. It's a little bit repetitive at times, but some games are just like that because sometimes that's just needed for, you know, for certain quests. But I think it's got enough uniqueness to it. So, yeah, that's excellent. Anyway, I won the rant. I've done that. We've got Bologna. We've finished it. Wow. Really happy about that. I know the last couple of videos have been a bit short, but that's just the game doing what it does. I really hope you've enjoyed watching it. I know it's been quite the ride on it. Certain things gave the game away, which quickly, yes, the shadows for the order menu, they should never been there. The one thing Odyssey did really well for the Cult of Cosmos, all the people were blacked out until you had all the clues and then you could unveil them. This game completely and utterly failed in that aspect. It should have been like that, like the way it was in Odyssey, where the blacked out, you didn't have any clue who they were, so you couldn't anticipate with the story, you couldn't make certain choices based on what you could see, you didn't know, you had to get all the you had to get all the clues and then unveil them. That thing Odyssey did really well. This game spectacularly failed in that aspect. The moment you had one clue, you could freely tell who it was. There were other stories which could have changed, been quite different outcome since we knew, or if they could be different because we would never have known. Just saying, that's one thing they should have fixed. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed as much as I know it was a bit of trial and tribulation. I got a bit pissed off, but that's how much passion I got for these games. I hope you've enjoyed it. I do recommend this game for the open world RPG. Norse Viking aspects. It's an Assassin's Creed game. I don't know. I'd wait to see what the DLC holds, quite honestly. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Thank you for all the support you show in this series. I really do appreciate it. I will be playing the DLC, see what happens. It's been annoying. It's been quite the experience. I have enjoyed it overall. So thank you all for watching. And if I don't catch you in the DLC, if I do, fantastic, see you then. If not, then I'll see you next time for a new Let's Play. Take care everyone, and thank you.